Dream artists. Technology had taken over every aspect of human life, and scientists had finally found a way to control dreams. The mysterious, chaotic, and disordered world of the subconscious was history. Dreaming was a relic of the past. Now people could create, shape, and experience their own dreams as they wished. The company that opened the doors to this dream world was none other than dream artists, a giant organization specializing in technology and psychology. The company made a fortune by selling people's desires and fears. The failures, shortcomings, and disappointments of the real world were obscured in these artificial dreams, and people found themselves in a perfect world for a short time. David Wells was one of the architects of this system. One of the company's most talented engineers, David was a quiet man who had just turned 40 and had withdrawn from life. His failed marriage in real life, his monotonous work life, and his existence, which always made him feel incomplete, brought him closer to the world of dreams. With his projects, he delved into people's subconscious, confronted them with their deepest desires, and pursued the perfect dream, which offers a spiritual experience beyond the body. The dreams he designed were not just visuals or sensations. They had a profound effect. The dreamer was recreated and rebuilt. But David knew that this perfect dream was flawed. There was a problem echoing in the depths of his mind, keeping him awake at night. The border between dream and reality was becoming a thinner and thinner line. As people took refuge in these dreams, they began to abandon the real world. The company's greed for profit ignored this dangerous line. There was a lost gleam in the eyes of the customers who walked around with a false peace on their faces. That gleam was the source of the fear that kept David awake and gnawed at him. No one wanted to go back. Everyone preferred to stay in this artificial world forever. As people forgot reality, their connection to the dream became dangerous. One morning, David arrived at his office early as usual, walking through the cold metallic corridors of the company. Sterile smells wafted through the air filters, gently hitting his nose as he passed through the high-tech rooms. But something was different that morning. The system had raised an alarm. One of the users had disappeared in his dream. This was no ordinary mistake. The person lost in the dream was unconsciously moving between the dream and the real world, unable to realize either. This was the worst disaster that could have befallen the company. Shutting down the system or forcibly waking the user could cause permanent damage. David decided the only solution was to hack into the system himself and solve the problem from the inside. He would have to travel to the darkest corners of the dream world to rescue this person whose consciousness was trapped between dreams. But the journey would be far more dangerous than... Everything seemed too perfect for David when he stepped into the dream universe. Clouds moved slowly in the artificial blue sky, and the sound of a soothing wind echoed in the distance. The scenery around him was no different from the real world, but everything seemed too perfect. The leaves of the tree never moved, the sea never rippled. On the one hand, he realized that this perfection was not foreign to him. He had constructed so many dreams that he now knew there was something disturbing about perfection. As David tried to find the missing person, he realized that the beings in the dream were looking at him strangely. The dream dwellers were staring at him as if they knew something was wrong. As David moved forward trying to avoid these stares, he finally came across a trace of the missing person. It was a young woman named Sarah. She had suffered severe trauma in the real world, so she had sought refuge in the dream world. But her escape had soon turned into hell. When David found her, Sarah's eyes were empty. The deep lostness in her eyes showed that she had completely lost the difference between dream and reality. It was as if she was trapped in a world that didn't speak. When David offered her his hand, the first words that left Sarah's lips were a question that shook David's soul. What was the truth, David? This question awakened the deepest fear in David. He himself had lived in dreams for years, but had almost forgotten what was real. Sarah's confusion was a reflection of his own fears. David decided to dig deeper to save her. But each layer showed that the dream world was becoming more distorted. Reality was disappearing and dreams were becoming chaotic. Everything was unraveling, erasing the lines between time and space. They were both desperate to get out of this dream, but the paths were closing, and they were drifting into a vast darkness. As David moved deeper and deeper into the dream, he came face to face with a reality. He was actually part of this dream. In trying to save Sarah, he had fallen into the traps of his own subconscious. Everything he thought was happening in the real world was actually a simulation. Even Sarah's existence was perhaps an illusion. By the time he realized this, it was too late. The system was out of control. The dreams were sucking the life out of David's mind, destroying his reality. The world was falling apart. The dream universe was turning into a vortex. Even Sarah's dull smile was now etched in his mind like a nightmare. David found himself in the same place over and over again. It was as if he was trapped in an endless loop. Each step pulled him deeper into darkness. He was lost in the labyrinths of his own mind. Was Sarah's existence real, or was it all an illusion? As he searched for the answer, his mind became more and more clouded. In the end, David had to admit that he too was part of a dream. Maybe he had never had a real life. Maybe the dream artists were keeping him in a dream too. Sarah's voice echoed in his mind once more. What was real, David? The echo of that question surrounded David's mind, severing his last ties to reality. In that moment, he realized that it was all over. There was no salvation. There was no reality. His consciousness was trapped in an endless loop of dream within dream. As the dark void engulfed him, David paused one last time to think, if there is no truth, what is there to lose?